Around 33,500 BC, from the moon of a giant planet orbiting a star in the constellation Orion, a technological civilization acquired the ability to explore the immensity that surrounds it. Ships are slow, taking decades to reach their nearest, barely evolved neighbors. One of the neighboring peoples is also on the path to progress. By joining forces, they discover how to travel by locally switching the mass and space dimensions. Decades of travel turn into years, then months. Around 32,000 BC, they managed to reach Earth and explore it, just in time to witness the emergence of sapiens and the disappearance of the Neanderthals. But your planet doesn't really interest them yet. For 12 millennia, the inhabitants of Orion prospered and continued their slow expansion while wasting energy and resources that they believed to be inexhaustible. They plunder their home planet, then their host planet, then their sun. Their exhausted world no longer suits them. Their race is gradually declining. Attempts are made to restore their failing ecosystem by bringing back food resources from other distant worlds. But the molecular combinations of proteins, which are too different, prove unsuitable to sustain their very specific organisms. They must adapt, creating their own food by synthesizing proteins. The only transposable resources are water and humus. But this last resource is rare and difficult to extract. The backward neighboring peoples are put under the yoke to extract it from their muddy swamps. They also attempt to establish themselves on other worlds with rudimentary life forms by transforming ecosystems as they wish. But the attempts all fail, one after the other, and irremediably destroy the most fragile ecosystems. The only successes are obtained on virgin worlds, but on which water and humus must also be brought in to make them viable. After much effort, the struggle for the survival of their home planet finally succeeds in restoring a self-sustaining ecosystem, but the sun is also fading, with no possibility of solving this problem. The inhabitants, concentrated in overpopulated hives, decide to emigrate to already inhabited worlds.
Around 18,000 BC, the lords of Orion betray the friendship of their stellar neighbors and associates. They invade their planet. Survivors are given the opportunity to emigrate and live freely on a transformed planet. The others are confined to a small part of their home planet. The new home is known to you as Serpo, second Eben's race point of origin, a reformed planet located around HD 32923 104 Tauri. Although originating from another constellation, we will call this second race the Taurians. Another reformed planet is colonized by a more moderate fringe of Orion's inhabitants, who take with them a large contingent of their neighbors in an attempt to live together. This planet, closer to you, is located around the star HD 50281 in the constellation Unicorn. It is from this still very arid planet that the First Lords will come to enslave your primitive peoples. The two peoples also have to face the incursion of other visitors who have evolved independently. Some, more spiritually advanced, force them to stop their colonialist impulses. Others are pushed back and their explorers eliminated. Others, more belligerent, force them to refocus around their planets of origin. The two peoples, divided into several antagonistic factions, began their inexorable decline. Until around 4000 BC, the Taurians and the Orions remained the only lords of Earth, exploiting certain specific areas, and among them, the area of the Fertile Crescent, where the benign incision pact was concluded with the priests, led by Abraham. Before this pact, priests were the servile earthly assistants of their deities. Cruel and feared by the populations, the priests kidnapped young men and reduced them to slavery as soon as they reached puberty. They were castrated to increase their docility and strength. The priests themselves and their male heirs were the only ones capable of reproducing, with dozens of submissive women at their disposal, locked in seraglios. This led to genetic impoverishment and unwanted generational reduction that the lords had to put an end to. The sacrificial gesture remained but was transformed into circumcision. This is one of the founding acts of terrestrial religions which will be given later as proof in the documents attesting to the anteriority on Earth of the Lords of Orion during the meetings of 1964.
Other races begin to roam around, some benevolent, some much less. The terrestrial colony is gradually abandoned, just monitored by a weakened contingent whose poorly maintained ships end up falling into disrepair. One of the transport ships crashes in Antarctica, causing a cloud of steam in the atmosphere that will cover the entire globe for several months. This vessel, located in too cold a territory, will be abandoned by the rare survivors who reach the only still active pole in Mesopotamia. It is this vessel, not yet completely deactivated, which will be discovered in 1939 by the German expedition. Gradually, the old gods disappear, leaving behind only legends and ancestral rituals, perpetuated without knowing why by the caste of ancient priests who argue over ancient objects of power, defense, or appeal. The memory of these objects still remains present in your legends. Palladium, Holy Grail, enchanted objects like sticks, spears, or swords. Some still exist nowadays. From the nearly depopulated planet closest to you, the monitoring and maintenance cycles of the facilities in your solar system continue every 10 years, over centuries and millennia, until today. Other visitors attempted incursions, first violently repulsed, then approved after mutual promises of non-aggression. The Earth becomes a place of visitation known to surrounding peoples, but without the possibility of interaction. It remains in the territory of influence of the Lords of Orion, the only ones authorized to descend there. Earth is luckier than its nearest neighbor, and aggressive people are expanding little by little, colonizing without morals planets closer and closer to you, mainly located in the constellations of Pisces and Cetus. Their assaults reach your nearest neighbors, orbiting Tau Ceti, also claimed by the Lords of Orion. They benefit from the protection of friends coming from the star system HD 194018, then joined by the people from HD 165341, both younger but already very technologically advanced. However, this planet around Tau Ceti will eventually be conquered after the hostile race's incessant attacks. It is at this precise moment that we emerge from our long black night and rush towards the stars. Alas, we make the mistake of heading towards the signals emanating from this planet, your neighbor of Tau Ceti. Our peaceful mission is considered aggression, our race being unknown and quite similar in appearance to that of the giant Lords of Orion. Our exploration ship is destroyed, along with its 6 occupants. Faced with our incomprehension regarding this tragic event, these same friendly neighbors from HD 165341 recommended that we avoid a circular stellar zone of our sky, of several degrees of amplitude, centered on the star HD 693. From UMMO, your Earth appears within this exclusion zone. We strictly complied with this directive, thus avoiding any further serious conflicting incidents and avoiding any visits to your solar system until your year 1948. We have already detailed our interaction with you from this date. At the same time, another tribe, quite enigmatic but very sneaky, also appears in this galactic sector, taking advantage of the distress of a nascent civilization, also threatened by the hostile race, inhabiting a planet located around the star HD 2151, to which they offer help. This enigmatic and devious people are the ones you call the Greys, openly opposed to the Lords of Orion and avowed enemies of the hostile conquering race. Although conquerors themselves, they were taking great steps towards peaceful colonization as far as it could exist. They obviously discovered Earth quite quickly. Your planet was already under the close and joint surveillance of several neighboring peoples, as it was also threatened by the hostile race. The Greys invoked their right to peaceful exploration using harmless ships, also offering protection because you were on the eve of your nuclear age, a danger to yourselves. In 1941, a first incident involving the Greys took place, causing material and human losses. Unusual signals were detected by the Greys at Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, arousing their curiosity. A camouflaged, possibly Taurian ship opens fire on the Greys' ship, first causing it to flee and then to crash. Indeed, the Grey vessel fled but crashed about 160 kilometers further south at Cape Girardeau, Missouri.